A falcon's cry splits the morning air. Across a misty field, a knight raises a gloved fist, and a feathered bolt of lightning takes flight. This was medieval falconry, far more than a simple sport. It was a mysterious and sophisticated art, a complex language of status, skill, and partnership between human and bird. To understand it, we must decode the specialized gear that made it all possible. By the end of this journey, you will be able to look at a medieval painting and read the hidden story in every strap and bell. How did a tiny leather hood control a creature of pure wild instinct? Why was a knight's glove so much more than just armor? We are about to peel back the layers on a forgotten world of craftsmanship and secret communication. What does it take to build trust with a living weapon? That partnership between knight and falcon began with a single, essential point of contact. The gauntlet was the falconer's right hand, quite literally. It was a bridge between two worlds, a piece of armor designed not for combat with other men, but for communion with a creature of the sky. Picture a glove crafted from the toughest, supplest leather, often from deer or elk hide, worn smooth and dark from years of use. This was no ordinary piece of attire. A falcon's talons, evolved to snap the spine of a duck in midair, could easily pierce human skin. So the gauntlet was a necessary shield, its cuff extending well up the forearm, sometimes reinforced with discreet plates of steel or tiny rings of mail at the wrist where a startled bird might grip. But its true genius was not in its defense, but in its offer of familiarity. For the falcon, this worn leather perch became home. It was the one constant in a world of noise and movement, the steady platform from which it launched and to which it returned. The feel of that specific leather under its feet, the subtle scent of the falconer's skin, and the oils of the hide, all signaled safety and control. This transformed the gauntlet from a simple tool into a powerful symbol of trust. A bird would not willingly return to an unfamiliar or unstable perch. The gauntlet, therefore, was the physical proof of a bond earned through patience and skill. And like everything in the medieval world, this tool spoke silently of status. A common falconer in the field might use a sturdy but plain hawking glove, practical and unadorned. For nobility, however, the gauntlet became a canvas. Manuscripts and tapestries show lords and ladies with gloves embroidered in gold thread, edged with fine fur, or even crafted from exquisite fabrics. These were declarations of wealth and leisure, showing that the wearer commanded not only a bird of prey, but also the immense resources required to practice this art. The gauntlet whispered a silent truth. In its design, you could read the story of the person who wore it. Was it a working tool, scarred and stained from daily use in the field? Or was it a jeweled accessory, a piece of theater for the courtly lawn? Each told a different tale of the medieval world. Yet on every one, from the simplest to the most ornate, the same silent promise was made to the bird. This is your place. This is where you belong. And that promise was sealed not with a clasp, but with a thin, almost invisible strip of leather. That promise of a steady perch was only the first step in a delicate dance of control. To move a hunting falcon from its mews to the open field required another, more ingenious piece of equipment. The hood is perhaps the most iconic and misunderstood tool in the falconer's kit. To our modern eyes, it might look restrictive, even cruel, but in the hands of a skilled master, it was an instrument of profound peace. Crafted from the softest leather, often dyed a rich burgundy or black, and sometimes adorned with a tiny decorative tassel or delicate embroidery, the hood was custom fitted to the individual bird's head. Its purpose was singular and psychological. By gently covering the falcon's eyes, the falconer could switch off the bird's overwhelming world. Falcons are visual hunters, their brains wired to react instantly to movement. In a crowded castle courtyard or on a jostling horseback journey, every flapping banner and scurrying servant was a potential trigger for panic. A startled falcon would bait, launching into a frantic, flapping struggle that could injure its wings or break precious feathers. The hood created a portable darkness, a calm, quiet space where the bird could simply sit and wait. The act of hooding and unhooding was a ritual of immense trust. A falconer would approach with steady hands, speaking softly, allowing the bird to feel the leather before it ever saw darkness. A quick, smooth motion would secure the hood, and the world would fall away. To remove it, often with a gentle pull on the tassel, was to reveal the hunting ground, transforming the calm perch into a platform of explosive potential. This was not a blindfold of punishment, but a signal. Hood on meant safety and rest. Hood off meant focus and freedom. Different cultures refined this tool into distinct styles, like the rounded Dutch hood or the intricate Indian pattern, each shaping the light in a specific way to suit different species and temperaments. The hood, therefore, was a secret shared between partner and predator. It was the falconer's way of saying, "Trust me, the chaos is not for you. I will tell you when it is time to see." That portable darkness of the hood created a calm passenger, but a calm passenger is not a controlled one. For that, the falconer relied on a far more subtle and constant form of connection, a system of leather bonds that were both a tether and a lifeline. These were the jesses. Think of them not as shackles, but as the falcon's essential ankle jewelry. They were two thin straps, meticulously cut from the strongest, most supple leather, usually calfskin, which was tough enough to withstand a powerful grip yet soft enough not to chafe the bird's legs. Each jess was carefully fitted, one to each leg, passing through a narrow slit in the leather anklet, called the bewit, that the bird wore permanently. Their length was a careful calculation. Field jesses used during the hunt were kept short, perhaps just long enough to be neatly gathered in the falconer's gloved fingers. This kept them from snagging on branches or tangling in the bird's own feathers during the explosive moment of the chase. Back at the mews, the bird's quarters, these would be swapped for much longer mews jesses. These allowed the falcon enough room to move comfortably along its perch, to hop down to a bath pan, to stretch its wings, all while remaining safely secured. At the end of each jess dangled a small, reinforced slit or a metal eyelet. This was the critical attachment point. Here, the falconer would fasten the swivel and the leash, a longer cord that could tie the bird to its outdoor block or the falconer's own glove. But the jesses were only half of the system. The smaller straps that actually encircled the bird's legs, holding everything in place, were the bewits. And it was to these bewits that the true voice of the hunt was attached. The bells, tiny, meticulously crafted bells of brass or silver, were sewn onto separate, even finer straps, which were then fastened around the bird's legs above the jesses. Their purpose was pure practicality born from fear. A falcon could vanish in an instant, diving into a thicket after prey or flying beyond a hill. In a world without radio trackers, the constant light chiming of those bells was a sonic beacon. A falconer would stand in a field, listening intently, following that faint, cheerful tinkling through the undergrowth to find his prized bird. The entire system, from bewit to jess to leash, was held together by a language of knots. The most vital was the falconer's knot, a quick release knot that could be tied and untied with one hand, often while wearing a thick glove. It had to be utterly secure, for a loose knot meant a lost bird, but it also had to come apart in an instant when the moment of flight arrived. This network of leather and knotwork represented a profound contract. It was a physical promise that the bird would not be lost, and in return, the bird granted the falconer the privilege of its presence. Every strap was a sentence in their silent dialogue. That sonic beacon of the bells, that constant tinkling, was only useful if the bird remained safely connected. And that connection relied on a tiny piece of medieval engineering genius, a device so simple and vital that its failure could mean disaster. The swivel was the unsung hero of the falconer's kit. Look closely at any detailed illustration of a medieval falcon on the fist, and you will see it. A small, functional piece of metal, often iron or brass, linking the gathered ends of the jesses to the longer leash. At first glance, it seems insignificant, but its design solved a fundamental and dangerous problem. A falcon is a creature of constant, subtle motion. Even while perched, it shifts its weight, turns its head, adjusts its grip. If its jesses were tied directly to a static leash, every tiny movement would translate into a twist. Over minutes, those twists would accumulate. The leather straps would coil into a tight, unforgiving spiral, winding shorter and shorter, pulling the bird's legs together uncomfortably and ultimately trapping it. In the panic to escape this entanglement, a falcon could break a leg or a precious flight feather, or worse, hang itself. The swivel eliminated this threat entirely. Its design was elegantly straightforward. Two metal rings, one linked inside the other, each free to rotate independently. The upper ring was attached to the ends of the jesses. The lower ring held the leash. As the bird turned and pivoted on the glove, the swivel allowed its movements to flow freely. The jesses could spin one way, the leash another, and the two would never bind. This was not just a convenience, it was a critical safety feature. It granted the bird a crucial measure of natural movement while keeping it securely anchored. Crafting a reliable swivel required a blacksmith or metalsmith's precise skill. The rings had to be formed perfectly round, with no rough edges or seams that could catch and wear through the leather. The pivot point between them had to be smooth, allowing effortless rotation without any play or wobble that could weaken the connection. A poorly made swivel that seized up was as dangerous as having no swivel at all. This small, unadorned piece of metal speaks volumes about the depth of understanding medieval falconers had for their charges. They observed the problem, a silent, incremental threat of entanglement, and engineered a mechanical solution. The swivel represents a moment where pure practicality meets compassionate care. It acknowledges that to maintain control over a wild spirit, you must first allow it the freedom to move. You must build a system that protects it from its own nature and from the unintended consequences of your partnership. The swivel made the tether safe, transforming it from a potential trap into a guaranteed lifeline. And with that lifeline secured, the falconer could finally turn his attention to the grand stage of the hunt itself. The soft, constant rotation of the swivel ensured the leash never tangled, but it was another sound entirely that guided the falconer through the final, critical phase of the hunt. That sound was the bell. Attached to the bewits on the bird's legs, these tiny instruments were far more than decoration. They were the falcon's voice in the wilderness. In the dense thicket where a prized goshawk might pursue a rabbit, or the tall marsh grass where a peregrine could pin a duck, vision was useless. The falconer would stand, heart pounding, straining to hear over the rustle of leaves and the whisper of the wind. What he listened for was a light, cheerful tinkling. Each step the bird took, Each shift of its body as it mantled over its prize would cause the bells to chime. This sound was a lifeline, a sonic thread leading the falconer directly to his partner. Without it, a bird could be lost just feet away, hidden by a screen of bracken. The construction of these bells was a specialized craft. They were forged from thin sheets of brass or, for the very wealthy, silver. A master bell maker would shape the dome, carefully solder the seam, and cast the tiny clapper inside that created the sound. The best were often engraved with delicate patterns, the owner's initials, or even protective symbols, transforming a tool into a personal treasure. Their tone was not left to chance. A small, light falcon like a merlin would wear bells with a higher, sharper pitch, a sound that could cut through the chatter of a woodland. A massive gerfalcon, the king of birds, would carry larger bells with a deeper, more resonant tone that carried across open moors. A skilled falconer could identify his own bird from a distance simply by the unique voice of its bells. This made them deeply personal, and their quality spoke volumes. A lord might commission a set from a renowned metalsmith, their clear, sweet ring a mark of his status, and the immense value of his bird. The sound they produced was a direct reflection of the care invested in the entire art. Dull, cheap bells that clanked instead of chimed were the mark of an amateur, someone who did not understand the subtlety required. In the silence after the chase, that bright, persistent ringing was more than a practical tool. It was the sound of success, the audible proof that the partnership had worked, and that the wild heart you had sent into the sky was waiting for you to find it. That bright ringing was a call to action, a sound that demanded the falconer follow. But to reach his bird, he first had to navigate the length of a lifeline he himself controlled. The leash was the final, physical link in this chain of command. It was a long, slender cord, typically woven from braided leather for durability, or sometimes spun from strong, smooth silk for a gentler touch on the falconer's bare hands. Its purpose was beautifully simple. When the bird was not soaring in free flight, the leash secured it either to the falconer's own gauntlet or to a stationary perch called a block, a stout post driven into the ground. This was the tether of trust. Its strength was non-negotiable. It had to withstand the sudden, powerful jerk of a large falcon launching from the fist, a force that could snap a weak cord in an instant. Yet it also needed a certain flexibility, a suppleness that allowed the falconer to gather and manage it without it becoming a stiff, unwieldy rope. Managing this leash was a subtle art in itself. A skilled falconer never let it drag or dangle. Instead, he would carefully coil the excess length into neat, concentric loops, held securely between the fingers of his gloved hand. This required a practiced, almost unconscious rhythm. Too loose a coil, and the leash could spill into a tangled mess at a crucial moment. Too tight a grip, and it could restrict the bird's natural movement on the glove, communicating tension instead of calm. The way a falconer held his coils was a telltale sign of his experience. But like every other piece of equipment, the leash was more than mere function. In a world obsessed with status and identity, even this practical cord could become a personal banner. For a noble or a monarch, a leash might be tooled with intricate patterns, dyed in the family's colors, or even stamped with a miniature version of their heraldic crest. Imagine a lord flying his gerfalcon with a leash of deep blue leather, its surface embossed with golden lions. This transformed the tool into a statement. It declared that every aspect of this hunt, down to the very tether that bound the bird, was an extension of the owner's power and prestige. It blended the practical need for control with the medieval love for display. So the next time you see a medieval illustration of a falconer, look at the line running from his hand. Is it a plain, serviceable braid, the mark of a professional who worked for his supper? Or is it an ornate, decorated strand, whispering of courtyards and privilege? The leash tells you not just how the bird was held, but by whom, and what that bond was meant to say to the watching world. The ornate leash was a statement, but the true test of the falconer's art came down to a single, dramatic return. That return was commanded not by a shout, but by a clever and ancient decoy. The lure was the master key to a falcon's obedience, a tool that blurred the line between training and instinct. At its core, it was a simple object, often a pair of wings from a pigeon or a game bird like a partridge, tied securely to a short leather cord with a weight at the end. The wings provided the familiar silhouette of prey, while the cord allowed the falconer to swing it through the air. But the lure's secret weapon was hidden inside. A skilled trainer would stitch a small pocket into the bundle and stuff it with fresh, tempting meat. This humble device served two brilliant purposes. First and foremost, it was the ultimate training tool for recall. In the early days of a falcon's education, the bird learned to associate the sight of the swinging lure with an easy, rewarding meal. The falconer would stand in a field, swing the lure in a wide, inviting circle, and then let it fall to the grass. The young falcon, released from the fist, would quickly learn to chase this artificial prey and be rewarded with the meat inside. Over time, this built a powerful, almost unbreakable habit. No matter how far the bird had flown in pursuit of real game, no matter how thrilling the chase, the sight of that familiar winged bundle whirling through the air would trigger a deep-seated response. It meant a guaranteed prize and a safe return to the fist. This transformed the lure from a simple trick into a lifeline of reliability. Its second use was more cunning. In actual hunting, particularly for birds like hawks trained on other birds, the lure could become a tactical decoy. Imagine a falconer seeking waterfowl. He might swing the lure high and visibly, its wings fluttering convincingly. To a duck in the distance, this could look like an easy, injured bird, a perfect target. Distracted by this false opportunity, the duck might lower its guard or alter its flight path, just for a moment. That moment was all the falconer's true bird of prey needed. It was a feint, a piece of theater played out with leather and feathers, demonstrating the falconer's deep understanding of the psychology of both his predator and its prey. Watching a master falconer work, the lure was to see a performance of pure skill. He would not just toss it. He would send it soaring in a great, looping circle around his body, the cord whistling, the wings creating a blur of motion. The falcon, high above, would fold its wings and dive, not at a living creature, but at this trusted signal. The bird would strike the lure in midair, sometimes carrying it several yards before landing to claim its reward. This exercise, called flying to the lure, kept the falcon fit, sharpened its reflexes, and constantly reinforced the essential bond. It was a dramatic display of controlled wildness, a reminder that this partnership was always a conversation between discipline and raw, untamed instinct. The lure proved that the most powerful tool in the falconer's kit was not made of metal or leather, but of an idea, the careful shaping of desire itself. That lure was the promise of a reward, but every falcon first had to learn to fly back to the promise. Before a bird ever chased a decoy or hunted live game, it had to master the most fundamental lesson of all, the return. This critical training phase relied on a deceptively simple piece of equipment, the creance. The name itself comes from an old word for belief or trust, which is precisely what this tool was meant to build. A creance is nothing more than a very long, very light line, often made of strong, thin silk or a fine braided cord. One end is securely fastened to the bird's jesses, the other is held or carefully anchored by the falconer on the ground. It is a safety line, a physical guarantee during those first tentative flights. Think of it as training wheels for a creature of the sky. The young falcon, perhaps just beginning to understand the connection between the glove and food, is placed on a perch a short distance away. The falconer, holding the coiled creance, offers the familiar fist and a morsel of meat. The bird must make the choice to fly that short gap. When it does, it experiences the thrill of flight and the immediate reward, all while the faint, almost weightless line trails behind it, unseen and unfelt. This is where trust is woven, one short flight at a time. The true skill in using a creance lies not in the line itself, but in the falconer's hands. Managing 100 feet or more of light cord is an art of delicate tension. The line must always have a slight drag, enough so the falconer can feel the bird's movement and gently check it if it flies too far or toward a hazard, like a tree. Yet it must never snap taut or jerk the bird unexpectedly. A sudden, sharp pull could startle the falcon, teaching it to fear the return rather than desire it. The falconer must become an extension of the line, sensing its play through his fingers, letting it slip out smoothly as the bird gains confidence and distance, gathering it back in soft, rhythmic coils as the bird returns. The worst danger is entanglement. A loose loop of silk catching on a twig or wrapping around the bird's leg could cause panic and injury. So the falconer's focus is absolute, his eyes on the bird, his hands constantly adjusting, ensuring the creance flows like water behind it. As the bird's skill and trust grow, the distances increase. The falconer might move to a wide, open field, using an even longer line, sometimes hundreds of feet, allowing the falcon to climb higher and fly harder, simulating a real hunt. But the principle remains. The creance is a silent conversation. The bird learns it can fly with freedom, and the falconer proves he will not let it come to harm. It is the bridge between the secure perch and the boundless sky, a tangible thread of faith that must one day be intentionally severed for the partnership to become complete. Severing that thread of faith was the final step, but a falcon needed a sanctuary to return to, a place to rest and prepare for the next flight. That sanctuary was the muse. Far from a simple cage, the muse was a falcon's personal castle, a building or sheltered space designed entirely around the physical and psychological needs of a creature born to rule the sky. Its primary purpose was shelter and calm. A good muse was always well ventilated, allowing fresh air to circulate and carry away moisture and odors, which could lead to respiratory ailments in the birds. Yet it was also dimly lit and quiet, providing a retreat from the overwhelming stimuli of the outside world. Inside, the central feature was the perch. This was not a simple branch. For larger hawks and falcons, a stout block of wood, perhaps a foot tall and firmly anchored to the ground, served as a solid standing post. For smaller, more delicate birds like merlins, a bow perch was often used, a gently curved arch of wood, sometimes padded with soft turf, that was easier on their feet. The most important perch, however, was the one by the window. This was the screen perch or window perch, a brilliant piece of behavioral design. It was positioned so the bird could look out through a wooden lattice or a finely meshed screen. This allowed the falcon to observe the changing light, the movement of clouds, the passage of people and animals, all from a place of complete security. It could satisfy its powerful curiosity and maintain its connection to the outside world without being startled into a panic by something suddenly appearing at the window. This perch prevented boredom and kept the bird mentally engaged, a critical factor for a sharp hunting partner. The design of the mews itself was a clear mirror of medieval society. For a yeoman farmer who kept a single goshawk for hunting hares, the mews might be a simple, sturdy lean-to against the side of his barn, built of timber and thatch. It was functional, warm, and dry. For a baron or a king, however, the mews was an architectural statement. It could be a fine stone building with a tiled roof, divided into multiple individual compartments, each housing a different prized bird from his collection. The interior might be lined with smooth plaster to deter mites, the perches turned from polished oak, and the window screens crafted by a carpenter into intricate geometric patterns. Some royal mews were vast complexes, with dedicated spaces for the falconers, for storing equipment, and for housing the teams of servants who cared for the birds. The quality of a noble's mews broadcast his wealth, his dedication to the art, and the immense value he placed on his avian companions. It said that these were not livestock, but esteemed members of the household, deserving of a home that reflected their majesty and the status they conferred upon their owner. In the quiet dimness of the mews, surrounded by the soft rustle of feathers and the subtle scent of leather and straw, the bond between human and bird was maintained not through action, but through respectful, careful stewardship. Within the sanctuary of the mews, the falcon's world was defined by its perch. This was not a random stick, but a carefully engineered piece of furniture, each type serving a distinct purpose in the bird's daily life and training. The most fundamental was the block. In the field, this was a simple, sturdy post driven into the earth, but inside the mews it became a more refined object, a short, heavy column of wood, often turned on a lathe into a conical or T-shape. Its design prioritized stability above all else. A nervous bird shifting its weight could topple a light stand, causing a panic that could damage precious tail feathers, called rectrices, essential for flight. The block's broad, flat top offered a secure, comfortable grip for the bird's talons, mimicking the feel of a thick, stable branch. Its sheer weight made it immovable, communicating safety through solidity. Here, the falcon would spend hours at rest, digesting a meal or simply observing the quiet rhythms of its sheltered world. For larger hawks, like the powerful goshawk used for hunting hares in dense forests, a different perch was preferred. The bow perch was a graceful arc of wood, shaped like an inverted U, and often covered in a layer of living turf or soft fabric like baize. This gentle curve was far kinder on the feet of a heavy bird that might stand for long periods. The soft, yielding surface prevented the development of painful pressure sores on their soles, a condition called bumblefoot, which could end a hunting bird's career. The bow perch catered to the physical comfort of a working athlete, a small but critical piece of preventative care. Then there was the screen perch, the psychological masterpiece of falconry furniture. Positioned by a window covered with a lattice or a finely woven mesh, this perch served as the bird's observation deck. It allowed the falcon to satisfy its innate, sharp-eyed curiosity in complete safety. From this vantage point, it could watch servants passing in the courtyard, dogs playing, carts rumbling by the entire pageant of human activity. This constant low-level exposure was a form of passive training. It acclimated the bird to the sights and sounds of the world it would work in, desensitizing it to potential distractions without the stress of direct confrontation. A falcon that spent hours each day on a screen perch was far less likely to bait in fright at a sudden movement during a hunt. It learned that the human world, while busy, was not a threat. In illuminated manuscripts and tapestries, we can see these perches in action. A noble lady might be depicted with her Merlin resting on a delicate, fabric-draped bow perch indoors. In a scene of a falconer's yard, rows of blocks stand in an orderly line, each hosting a hooded bird awaiting its turn for exercise. These images are not just decoration, they are technical diagrams. They show us that the medieval falconer understood that control began not with the chase, but with rest. The right perch in the right place could soothe a wild spirit, strengthen its body, and prepare its mind. It transformed a space from a mere holding cell into a true home, a base of operations for a creature of the air. And from that base, every journey began and ended with a single, careful motion, the act of lifting the bird from its block to the fist, a transfer of trust that relied on one final, often overlooked piece of gear. The careful transfer from perch to fist was a daily ritual, but some journeys required more than a short walk across the courtyard. Taking the hunt on the road presented a monumental challenge. How do you transport a creature of pure tension, a being designed to explode into flight at the slightest provocation, across miles of bumpy track, through forests, and into foreign fields? The solution was a piece of equipment designed for maximum calm, the hawk bag, also known as a transporting hood. This was not the delicate face covering of the hunt. It was a larger, padded container, often made of thick, soft leather or even fabric, that completely enclosed the bird. Imagine a snug, protective cocoon. The falcon would be carefully hooded with its regular hood to block all light, and then its body would be gently slipped into this bag, which was tied securely around its legs or waist. Inside this dark, quiet, and cushioned space, the bird was insulated from the chaos of travel. It could not see the looming trees, the other horses, or the sudden movements that would trigger its instinct to flee. The constant jostling of the saddle was reduced to a gentle, rhythmic rocking. This was not a punishment, but an act of mercy. A journey that would have been a terrifying, exhausting ordeal became a period of forced rest. For especially long travels, or for transporting multiple birds, more elaborate solutions emerged. Wealthy nobles or royalty might use specially designed carts or litters. These were mobile mews on wheels, with shaded compartments, perches fixed to the walls, and perhaps even small windows covered with mesh to allow some air and a dim view. A particularly valuable gerfalcon, a gift from one king to another, would travel in such state, its comfort a direct reflection of its diplomatic worth. Now picture a medieval hunting party setting out at dawn. The lord and his guests are mounted on horses, their chatter filling the air. But nearby, the falconers move with a different kind of focus. Their horses carry not just riders, but precious, volatile cargo. Each man might have 2 or 3 birds with him, each one hooded and bagged, secured to the saddle by a special bracket or a padded frame called a cadge. Their hands are constantly checking the security of the straps, their ears tuned to the sounds from within the bags. A contented chirp was good, frantic scratching meant trouble. This was the hidden logistics of the hunt. Before a single bird could fly, an entire support system had to move across the countryside. This practice was so essential it extended into warfare. Knights heading to battle or on long campaigns would sometimes bring their falcons, not for sport, but for a practical purpose, hunting for fresh meat to supplement army rations. The hawk bag, therefore, was more than a travel case. It was a tool of empire and campaign, allowing the art of falconry to cross continents, turning a local pastime into a mobile, strategic asset. It whispered that the true mastery of falconry lay not only in the thrill of the chase, but in the quiet, careful science of bringing the sky itself along for the ride. The hawk bag ensured a calm journey, but upon arrival, the real work of sustaining a living weapon began. A falcon is a finely tuned metabolic engine, a carnivore that burns energy at a breathtaking rate. Its diet was not a casual affair of table scraps, but a strict scientific regimen managed with specialized tools and precise rituals. Every meal was an opportunity, a tool for health, training, and control. The primary surface for this essential act was the feeding block. This was a dedicated, easily cleaned stone or wooden slab, kept scrupulously free of dirt and old debris. Feeding a bird of prey on the ground or a dirty surface risked introducing parasites or bacteria that could sicken the valuable hunter. The block was a clean, consistent dining table, signaling order and care. Upon it, the falconer would place the day's ration, always fresh, raw meat. This could be beef heart, pigeon, rabbit, or any other lean muscle, carefully cut into bite-sized strips. But the menu often included a strange extra ingredient. Alongside the meat, the falconer might add a small bundle of feathers plucked from a pigeon, or a bit of fur from a rabbit skin. These were called castings. The bird would swallow them along with its meal. Later, in the quiet of the mews, it would regurgitate a compact pellet, known as a casting, containing these indigestible materials along with bits of bone and other waste. This natural cleansing process kept the bird's digestive tract clear and healthy. Providing castings was a sign of a knowledgeable falconer who understood his bird's biology as well as its behavior. Another curious item might appear on the feeding block, the tiring. This was a tough, long piece of meat, often with sinew or bone still attached, like a rabbit's foot or a large wing joint. It was not an easy meal. The bird had to work for it, pulling and tearing at the resistant material with its hooked beak and powerful talons. This served a brilliant dual purpose. First, it was entertainment and mental stimulation, a challenging puzzle that kept the bird occupied for a long time, preventing boredom in the mews. Second, and more crucially, it was maintenance. The constant pulling and shredding action naturally wore down the falcon's continuously growing beak and talons, keeping them sharp and perfectly shaped. A bird without access to tirees could develop overgrown or misshapen tools, rendering it useless for the hunt. The tiring was nature's file and whetstone, provided by a thoughtful human partner. All of this feeding was governed by one overarching principle: weight management. This was the falconer's most potent and delicate form of communication. A bird's hunting desire is directly tied to its hunger. A falcon that is completely full or fat, in falconry terms, will have no motivation to work. It will simply sit contentedly, ignoring the lure and the world around it. A bird that is too hungry or sharp becomes frantic, weak, and unpredictable. The falconer's daily task was to find the perfect flying weight, a precise balance where the bird was lean enough to be eager and agile, but strong enough for endurance and power. This required a strict routine. The falconer would weigh his bird daily on a small, delicate balance scale, often first thing in the morning before its meal. He kept meticulous mental or written records. He controlled the exact amount of food given, sometimes withholding a portion to increase desire for the next day's hunt, or adding a bit more to calm a bird that was becoming too keen. This process, central to the bird's initial training and daily life, was called manning, Through measured hunger, the falconer built a bridge of dependency and reward. The bird learned that the glove, the falconer himself, was the source of all good things. Its willingness to fly to the fist, to return from a chase, was not born of loyalty, but of carefully cultivated need. It was a partnership built on a profound understanding of appetite. The falconer held the key to the pantry, and in doing so, he held the key to the sky. Every strip of meat was a word in their silent language, every gram on the scale a sentence in their ongoing negotiation. That careful science of appetite required tools of a different kind. Beyond the grand equipment of the hunt lay a smaller, more intimate collection of items, a portable workshop that revealed the falconer's true role as a craftsman and caretaker. This was the maintenance kit, a personal arsenal carried in a pouch at the belt, ready to address any failure in the field. Its most delicate instrument was the needle. This was not a common sewing needle, but a sturdier, often curved tool designed for working with thick leather. Its purpose was constant repair. A jest could fray from daily friction against the swivel. A seam on a well-loved hood might split after years of use. In the middle of a hunting expedition, miles from the workshop, the falconer could not afford such a failure. So he would sit, perhaps under a tree while the birds rested, and with steady hands, re-stitch the tear using strong wax thread. This act of mending was a quiet promise of continuity, ensuring the bonds of leather remained as reliable as the bond of trust. To prepare the leather for such repairs, he used an awl. This was a pointed spike of iron or steel set into a wooden handle. Before he could sew, he needed to punch clean, precise holes through the tough hide for the needle to follow. The awl did this work, its sharp point driven through with a twist of the wrist, creating a neat channel that would not tear or weaken the strap. It was a tool of preparation, turning a solid piece of gear into something that could be renewed and extended. A philosophy of care made manifest in a simple whole. Alongside these tools of repair was the tool of provision, the knife. A falconer's knife was his constant companion, its edge kept lethally sharp. Its first and most frequent use was for cutting the daily ration of meat into perfect, bite-sized strips on the feeding block. But its duties extended to the bird itself. A falcon's beak and talons, made of keratin like our fingernails, never stop growing. In the wild, they are worn down naturally by tearing prey and scraping against branches and rocks. In captivity, this natural filing process often needed assistance. If a talon grew too long, it could curve back into the bird's own foot, causing a crippling injury. If the beak's tip overgrew, it could prevent the bird from tearing meat effectively. So with immense care and a rock-steady hand, the falconer would use the very tip of his blade to trim away the excess, shaping the tools of the hunt without ever harming the hunter. This required a profound intimacy and trust, a moment where the bird's most dangerous weapons were willingly submitted for maintenance. The knife, therefore, was an instrument of both sustenance and health, its sharpness a measure of the falconer's responsibility. All of this leather and blade work demanded one final element to endure: preservation. Exposed to sun, rain, and the constant oils from a bird's feet and meals, leather gear could stiffen, crack, and rot. To prevent this, the falconer carried small vials of dressing. This might be neat's foot oil, rendered from the bones of cattle, or a homemade blend of animal fats and beeswax. After a day in the damp field, he would methodically rub this dressing into every strap: the jesses, the leash, the hood. He would work it into the grain of his gauntlet. This ritual did more than waterproof. It kept the leather supple and silent, preventing the creaks and groans that could startle a sensitive bird. It extended the life of the equipment by years, honoring the craftsmanship that went into it. This maintenance kit, from needle to oil, tells a story of self-reliance and deep investment. The medieval falconer was not just a trainer or a hunter. He was a leatherworker, a surgeon, a chef, and a conservator. His success depended not only on his skill in flying the bird, but on his ability to sustain the entire system that made the flight possible. In the quiet moments between the thrilling bursts of the chase, these small tools ensured the partnership would be ready for whatever the next dawn demanded. But even the most skilled falconer could not carry his entire arsenal of birds on a single gloved hand. For the logistics of a grand hunt, where a lord might fly different birds for different types of game, another piece of equipment rolled into the field. It was called the cadge. Picture a simple, rectangular wooden frame, perhaps the size of a small tabletop, with sturdy posts at each corner. Strung between these posts were ropes or straps, creating a series of secure perches. This portable aviary was the responsibility of the cadger, almost always a young apprentice or a lower-ranking servant in the hunting party. His job was one of immense care and low visibility. While the lord or master falconer rode with his prized falcon proudly displayed on his own fist, the cadger walked, carrying the rest of the team on his shoulders. The cadge allowed for the transport of 3, 4, or even more hooded birds at once, each secured to its own spot on the frame. This design was brilliant in its practicality. By keeping the birds elevated on the cadger's shoulders, they were held above the dust and commotion of the ground, the bustling feet of dogs, and the nervous hooves of other horses. The gentle, rhythmic sway of the cadger's walk had a calming effect, similar to the hawk bag, lulling the hooded birds into a state of quiet readiness. It kept them as a group, organized and under watchful care, without a single leash tangling with another. The social statement of the cadge was unmistakable. In any illuminated manuscript depicting a royal hunt, you can spot this hierarchy in action. At the front, mounted on a splendid horse, is the king or noble, his personal gerfalcon or peregrine standing alert on his jeweled gauntlet. This bird was a companion and a direct extension of his own status. And just behind him, on foot amidst the grooms and the hounds, you would see the cadger, a young man, shoulders squared under the weight of the wooden frame, bearing the secondary birds, perhaps a goshawk for furred game, a sparrowhawk for smaller birds, a spare falcon. The cadge was a mobile, walking symbol of support labor. It represented all the unseen effort that made the noble sport possible. The cadger's pace set the speed for the entire procession, for he could not be jostled or rushed. A stumble could send the precious cargo into a panic. His steady, plodding walk was the heartbeat of the hunt's preparatory phase, a quiet drumbeat of duty preceding the symphony of the chase. To be a cadger was to learn the art from the ground up, quite literally. It was an apprenticeship in patience, in reading the subtle shifts of hooded birds, in understanding that before one could command the sky, one had to master the humble, essential task of carrying it. The cadger's steady walk carried a hierarchy of hunters, each bird a specialist. This reveals a crucial truth about medieval falconry. It was never a single art. It was a collection of arts, each defined by the specific bird being flown. The equipment was not standardized. It was a bespoke suit of armor and communication, scaled and tailored with exquisite precision to the species in hand. The differences were dramatic. On one end of the spectrum sat the merlin, this tiny, fierce falcon, often flown by noblewomen, hunted skylarks over open moorland. Its gear was a masterpiece of miniaturization. The hood was a delicate dome of the softest leather, no larger than a walnut, stitched with threads as fine as a hair. Its jesses were slender ribbons, thin enough to be almost weightless on the bird's sparrow-like legs. The bells were a pair of silver peas, their tinkle a high, faint chime easily lost on the wind, requiring the falconer to listen with rapt attention. Contrast this with the gear for the gyrfalcon, especially a female, the largest and most powerful falcon in the world. A bird fit for an emperor. Her equipment was built for a feathered warlord. The gauntlet for such a creature was not just a glove. It was a substantial piece of armor. The leather was thick and often reinforced with internal plating, for her talons could exert crushing force. Her hood was a robust helmet, its leather stiff enough to hold its shape against the strength of her neck. Her jesses were wide straps, cut from the toughest hide, and her leash was a braided cord thick as a little finger, capable of withstanding her tremendous launch. The bells on her legs were not peas but acorns, made of heavier brass to produce a deeper, commanding toll that carried across tundra and ice field. Every element was adapted. The perches tell the same story. A merlin might rest on a slender, padded bow perch, its curve gentle for light feet. A goshawk, a woodland ambush predator built for power and weight, required a broad, turf-covered block or a massive bow to prevent foot disease. The lure for a merlin was a tiny bundle of songbird wings. For a gyrfalcon, it might be the full wings of a duck or goose. This specialization was not merely practical. It was a loud, clear signal of social standing. The bird you flew, and by extension, the gear that adorned it, placed you on a strict social ladder. A priest or a humble yeoman might fly a sparrowhawk or a small male goshawk. Their gear was functional, sturdy, and plain. A knight or a baron would fly the peregrine, the classic falcon of the open field, its equipment finely made but built for serious work. At the very top stood the king or emperor, for whom the white gyrfalcon from the Arctic North was the ultimate prize. Its majestic size and savage beauty were unmatched, and the gear required to maintain it was correspondingly lavish: embossed leashes, embroidered hoods, gauntlets trimmed with fur. To see a bird on the fist was to instantly know the status of the person whose arm it weighed down. The equipment was a language: the scale of the leather, the tone of the bells, the heft of the glove. They all translated the bird's natural prowess into a human statement of power, wealth, and refined expertise. This was a world where even the smallest strap was a carefully chosen word in a very public conversation. That language of leather and bells was spoken most fluently in the courts of kings. In the rarefied air of the castle, falconry equipment transcended its practical purpose entirely, becoming a dazzling extension of personal heraldry and political theater. A lord's gauntlet was not merely a protective glove. It was a piece of his formal attire, as deliberate in its statement as the cut of his tunic or the jewels on his belt. Manuscripts from the period show us gauntlets embroidered with intricate scenes in threads of gold and silver, their cuffs trimmed with the fur of ermine or sable. The hood, that humble tool of calm, could be fashioned from the finest crimson-dyed cordovan leather, or even from sumptuous velvet, stitched with pearls and topped with a plume of exotic feathers. The leash connecting lord and bird might be a braid of colored silk, its colors matching his family's heraldry. And the bells, those practical trackers, were often miniature works of the silversmith's art, engraved not with random patterns but with the lord's own coat of arms, so that every faint chime in the field announced the presence and prestige of its owner. This was fashion with a function. a public declaration that the wearer commanded not just a bird, but the immense resources, leisure, and specialized artisans required to turn a tool of the hunt into a jewel. The bird itself was the ultimate accessory, and its selection was governed by a rigid, often legally enforced code. In many realms, sumptuary laws explicitly dictated who could fly which bird, making the hierarchy of falconry a matter of state. The majestic white gerfalcon, a gift fit for emperors, was legally reserved for a king. The swift peregrine, the classic falcon of the open field, was the rightful bird of an earl or a prince. A knight or a baron might fly a smaller tiercel, the male peregrine. The goshawk, a powerful hunter of woods and hedgerows, was often associated with the yeoman class, the free landowners who were neither peasant nor noble. And the humble sparrowhawk was frequently the bird of the priest. To fly a bird above your station was not just a breach of etiquette, it was an act of social rebellion, a visual lie that could carry real consequences. These laws were mysteries of social control, written not on parchment alone, but enacted daily in the sight of all. When a king rode out with his snowy gerfalcon on a gauntlet sewn with golden lions, every person who saw it understood the message. The bird's natural majesty was amplified by the crafted majesty of its gear, creating a living, breathing emblem of power. This transforms our understanding of a simple leather strap or a tiny bell. They were not just parts of a hunting system, they were components of a visual language, as readable as a family crest on a shield. The next time you see a medieval portrait of a noble with a bird on his fist, look closer. The gleam of the metal, the richness of the color, the delicacy of the stitchwork, they are all telling you a story. They whisper of a world where what you carried on your arm could define your place in it, where the trappings of the hunt were inseparable from the politics of the court. This elaborate language of gear served a single, profound purpose: to translate human intention into terms a wild predator could understand. Every strap, every bell, every piece of leather was a word in a slow, patient dialogue whose goal was not domination, but willing partnership. The process was called manning, and it began with a terrifying reality for the bird. A newly captured falcon, perhaps taken from a cliffside nest as a fledgling, was a creature of pure panic. Its world had shattered, replaced by the scent, sound, and sight of its greatest enemy, humans. The falconer's first task was to rebuild a world, but on new terms. This is where the hood proved its genius beyond mere calm. In the bird's initial, blinding fear, the hood was a mercy. It created a dark, quiet space where the overwhelming stimulus of the human face and form simply ceased to exist. The falconer could now carry the bird on his glove for hours, walking it through the busy courtyard, letting it feel the rhythm of his gait, hear the murmur of his voice, all without the triggering sight of his eyes. The bird learned through its feet that this moving perch was steady. It learned through the muffled sounds that this giant creature's presence did not bring harm. The hood allowed trust to begin in the absence of fear. Alongside this, the consistency of the equipment built a map of safety. The falcon learned the specific scent and texture of its own glove, the unique sound of its own bells, a personal jingle that meant this is you, and you are with me. The routine of the lure became a predictable promise. Effort would always lead to reward. This was not training through punishment, but through the meticulous construction of positive associations. The wild heart was not broken, it was gently persuaded. The falconer became the source of all good things: food, security, and finally, the thrilling freedom of flight. He controlled the hunger that motivated the hunt, and he provided the safe return. The equipment was the medium for this entire exchange. The jesses and leash were not chains, but a guaranteed way home. The creance was a tangible thread of faith, saying you may fly, but I will not let you be lost. Even the act of hooding evolved into a signal. A bird would learn to lower its head for the hood, not in submission, but in anticipation of the calm that would follow. This was a conversation built on months of repetition, where every piece of gear asked a question and reinforced an answer. Can you stand on this glove without fear? Yes. Will you fly to this swinging lure and find food? Yes. Will you return from the wild sky to the sound of my voice and the feel of this familiar leather? Yes. The ultimate historical mystery here is not the crafting of the tools, but the insight behind them. How did medieval people, without the science of animal behavior, deduce this psychology? They observed with incredible patience. They saw that force created resistance, but that predictability built confidence. They engineered a world of leather and ritual that spoke directly to a predator's instincts, transforming terror into tolerance and tolerance into a working alliance. The bond was an illusion woven from necessity, but the trust was real. It was the silent triumph of the falconer's art, to convince a sovereign of the air that its freedom could be found in partnership. Armed with this knowledge of leather and language, you can now step into a gallery or open an ancient book and see far more than a simple portrait. Medieval art is a coded message, and falconry equipment provides one of its clearest alphabets. Take the famous unicorn tapestries. Among the lush flora and mythical beast, noblemen and ladies are depicted with birds on their fists. Look closely. The lady often holds a small, delicate falcon, like a merlin. Its hood is finely made, its jesses slender. This is no random detail. In the language of courtly love, the falcon symbolized the elusive, high-spirited beloved, a creature of beauty and wildness that the suitor must patiently train and win over. The lady with the falcon on her glove is declaring her own noble status and her readiness for this refined, ritualized pursuit. She is both the trainer and the prize, a complex symbol of cultivated grace holding raw nature in check. Now shift your gaze to a knight in a manuscript illumination. He stands tall, a large hawk, perhaps a goshawk, gripping his heavily reinforced gauntlet. This bird speaks of a different virtue, martial prowess and land-based power. The goshawk was the hunter of forests, taking hare and pheasant, the bounty of a knight's own estates. Its presence on his fist signals his role as a provider and a man of action, his authority rooted in the practical management of his lands and the thrill of the chase. The artist didn't need to write a caption explaining this man's character. The bird and its gear did it for them. The quality of the equipment shouts the subject's wealth. A plain leather gauntlet suggests a professional falconer, a skilled servant, but a glove embroidered with gold thread, attached to a leash of colored silk, with a hood adorned by a tiny pearl. That bird belongs to someone who commands artisans, not just game. In royal portraits, the bird itself is the ultimate flex. A king painted with a majestic white gerfalcon, its jesses seemingly made of gold cord, is making a statement of imperial ambition. This bird, native to distant Arctic cliffs, was incredibly difficult to obtain, a gift between emperors. Its inclusion says the ruler has connections across continents and the resources to maintain such an exotic creature. It transforms the painting from a likeness into a geopolitical document. Literature weaves these symbols into its narratives. In Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the prioress is described with courtly delicacy, and though she is a nun, the poet notes she has small hounds and that she would weep if one died. While not a falconry reference, It taps into the same symbolic system. The keeping of refined animals denoted gentle breeding. In stories of chivalry, a knight receiving a falcon as a gift from a lady is accepting a powerful token of her favor and his expected conduct. The bird's training mirrors his own required discipline in her service. So become a detective of the past. When you see a medieval image, ask the new questions your knowledge allows. What species is that? Is the leash ornate or plain? Is the bird hooded or bare-headed, indicating a moment of calm or action? The answers will reveal a hidden layer of meaning. You are no longer just looking at a picture of a person with a bird. You are reading their resume, their bank statement, and their personal aspirations, all conveyed through the silent language of a well-dressed hawk. These silent portraits and poems are compelling, but they beg for physical proof. Where is the hard evidence, the tangible touch of leather and rusted metal from a falconer's hand? The answer lies in the mud, the peat, and the forgotten corners of old cities. Archaeology provides the crucial third witness, confirming the stories told by art and literature with cold, hard fragments of the past. The most evocative finds often come from environments that preserve organic material, like the oxygen-starved depths of peat bogs. In these watery graves, leather does not rot. Excavations across northern Europe have yielded dark, supple strips of leather, instantly recognizable to an expert's eye. These are jesses, their ends still showing the precise slit for a swivel, or pieces of a gauntlet, worn smooth on the palm from 1,000 gentle grips. They are humble, personal, and shockingly intimate. To hold one is to feel the ghost of a falconer's daily ritual, the very strap he tightened each morning before releasing his partner to the sky. More durable still are the metal components. Swivels, those small rings of iron or bronze, turn up in urban excavations, often in the silt of old riverbanks or buried in the layers of a medieval marketplace. Tarnished and corroded, their simple, functional design is unmistakable. Each one is a solved problem, a testament to a blacksmith's understanding of a very specific need. Bell fragments are rarer, their thin metal often crushed, but occasionally a curved piece of engraved brass emerges, a silent echo of the sound that once guided a desperate man through a thicket. Perhaps the most telling discoveries come from places like medieval London. Digs in the city have uncovered a wealth of falconry debris mixed with everyday trash, broken pottery, food bones, and lost coins. Here, in the same layer, you might find a finely tooled leather keeper from a noble's leash, alongside the simple, utilitarian jess of a merchant's bird. This scatter of equipment tells a powerful social story. Falconry was not confined to castle walls. It was woven into the fabric of the entire city. The guildsman, the shopkeeper, the prosperous butcher, all might have aspired to keep a bird, their status reflected in the quality of their gear, found now in a common dump. A noble's tomb offers a more concentrated snapshot. While the bird itself was rarely buried, the tools of the art sometimes were. A knight interred with his sword and shield might also have had his favorite hawking glove placed beside him, or a small, precious swivel of silver tucked into a pouch. These were not just possessions. They were identifiers, symbols of a life lived with a particular skill and passion, essential enough to accompany him into the afterlife. These fragments do more than confirm illustrations. They open windows onto a vast network of trade and craftsmanship, that supple leather needed dressing to stay flexible. Chemical analysis of residues on preserved straps can reveal traces of imported oils, like olive oil from the Mediterranean or rare animal fats. a leash woven from silk thread points to trade routes stretching to China or the Middle East. The brass for a bell may have come from mines in Germany, the silver for a noble's swivel from Bohemia. Each small artifact is a node in a global medieval economy, proving that the desire to master the sky created demand that rippled across continents. A broken swivel in a London ditch is not just trash. It is the end point of a long journey of ore, fuel, and skilled labor. It is proof that the art of falconry, for all its elite symbolism, was also a widespread, practical, and deeply human pursuit. Its tools lost, discarded, and waiting centuries for us to piece their story back together. The broken swivel in a London ditch connects to a frozen cliff on the other side of the known world. For the medieval mind, the ultimate expression of falconry's majesty was not a local bird, but a ghost from the ice. The geofalcon, especially the rare white morph, was the undisputed sovereign of the sky, a creature of myth made real. Its natural home was the Arctic Rim, the stark cliffs of Iceland, Greenland, and Norway, places that existed on the very edge of the medieval map. To possess one was to command a piece of that distant, untamed wilderness. But this prize did not simply fly into a king's courtyard. Its arrival was the culmination of an epic, perilous journey, a supply chain of living treasure that turned falconry equipment into gear for an explorer. The journey began with specialist trappers, Norse or Icelandic hunters who knew the brutal landscape. They would scale treacherous cliffs to take nestlings, or use nets and traps in the fleeting summer. A captured geofalcon was then placed into a specially reinforced traveling crate, or hooded and bagged with immense care. Its voyage to Europe was a gauntlet of storms and slow, rolling ships. The bird had to survive weeks at sea, fed on carefully preserved meat, kept calm in darkness as the world pitched and rolled around it. Many did not survive. Those that did emerged into the bustling ports of Bergen or Copenhagen, where they were assessed, rested, and prepared for the next leg. They became commodities on a royal scale, their value often calculated in sums that could ransom a knight. From the ports, they traveled overland, carried by trusted messengers or merchants along routes patrolled by guards. For a single white geofalcon was a target for thieves as tempting as a chest of gold. This was not mere trade, it was high diplomacy. A king of Norway might send a white falcon to the Holy Roman Emperor as a gesture of alliance. The bird itself was the message, its savage beauty and impossible origin speaking of respect, power, and a desire for favor. When it finally arrived at a court like Westminster or Paris, its journey was only half over. Now it had to be equipped. The gear for a geofalcon was built like a knight's armor for a tiny, feathered titan. A female geofalcon could weigh over 4 pounds, with a wingspan stretching well over 4 feet. Her talons were designed to seize large Arctic waterfowl like geese mid-flight. An ordinary glove was useless. Her gauntlet was substantial, often lined with additional padding, and internally reinforced with plates of whalebone or thin steel to disperse the crushing grip of her feet. The jesses were wide bands of the toughest bullhide, cut thick to resist her immense strength. Her leash was a braided cable. Her hood, a masterpiece of the leatherworker's art, had to be rigid enough to withstand the powerful thrust of her neck, yet perfectly fitted to avoid rubbing. Everything was scaled up, over-engineered for a creature whose spirit was as vast as its homeland. To fly a white geofalcon was to make a statement that echoed across a continent. In a world where color symbolized purity and royalty, its pale plumage was a living banner. Manuscripts show kings like Frederick II of Sicily, a famed falconry scholar, depicted specifically with white falcons. The contrast was deliberate. The civilized, learned king in his rich robes, gently restraining the primal power of the white north. The bird's equipment, though hidden in such paintings, was the critical interface that made this image possible. That ornate, super-strong glove was the only reason the wild ghost could stand calmly on a human fist. So the next time you see a mention of a white falcon in a chronicle or a tapestry, see the full story. See the cliffside scramble in the howling wind, the desperate voyage across gray seas, the guarded caravan moving through dark forests. See the specialized workshop where a leathersmith built not for a hawk, but for a legend. This was the apex of the art, where every strap and stitch answered a single, demanding question. How do you build a bridge sturdy enough to connect a king's ambition to the very edge of the world? That white falcon on a king's fist was more than a symbol of peace. It could also be a creature of war. Beyond the manicured lawns of the hunt, the tools of falconry followed armies into the dust and din of campaign. This was a practical and profoundly psychological application of the art. While armies did keep hawks for hunting fresh meat, a more specialized role existed for the birds and their handlers. In an age before radio, communication across a chaotic battlefield or between scattered units was a deadly problem. Enter the falconer's ultimate messenger. Certain birds of prey, particularly homing pigeons carried by specialized handlers, are well documented, but the concept extended to trained hawks and falcons. Their incredible eyesight, speed, and ability to fly directly over impassable terrain made them ideal for carrying urgent, lightweight dispatches. A tiny parchment, tightly rolled and sealed, could be secured in a protective capsule and fastened to the bird's leg. Released from a castle under siege or a forward scout's position, the bird would fly straight and true back to its home mews at headquarters, a feathered telegram streaking over enemy lines. The equipment for this duty was minimal but crucial. The message capsule had to be aerodynamic, waterproof, and attached in a way that didn't impede the bird's flight. The handler needed his trusty gauntlet, hood, and jesses, but now in a context of utter chaos. Imagine the scene, not a quiet field at dawn, but a camp at the edge of a forest, the air thick with the smell of smoke, dung, and unwashed men. Among the armorers and the cooks, a small, dedicated tent houses the falconer and his birds. His routine of meticulous care becomes an act of defiance against the filth and disorder of war. He must keep his leather supple in the mud, his hoods dry in the rain, and his birds calm amidst the sudden blare of trumpets and the clash of drilling soldiers. The psychological weight on these birds was immense. They were creatures of supreme sensitivity, now living in a world of constant, shocking noise. The falconer's skill was tested not in the pursuit of game, but in the preservation of focus. He would likely keep his birds hooded for much longer periods, their portable darkness a shield against the terrifying pageantry of an army on the move. There are whispers of this in the chronicles. Richard the Lionheart, the archetypal warrior king, was famously devoted to falconry. It is said he took his birds and their handlers with him on the Third Crusade, a long and brutal campaign in the arid Levant. While historical records are sparse on the details of their use in battle, the very fact of their presence is telling. For a king like Richard, the familiar ritual of falconry, the feel of the gauntlet and the jesses, provided a rare thread of normalcy, a touch of home in a foreign land. It was a mental anchor. For his men, seeing their king engaged in this refined, aristocratic pursuit, even in the midst of war, was a powerful morale booster. It projected an image of unshakable confidence and cultured authority. It said that their leader was so assured of his control, he could afford the luxury of his hobby even on the brink of battle. The falcon on the fist became a symbol of unwavering nerve. The equipment in this setting transformed in meaning. That embroidered gauntlet was no longer just a mark of wealth. It was a banner of resilience. The well-maintained jesses and gleaming swivel spoke of discipline maintained in the face of chaos. It showed an army that its command structure held, down to the most delicate details. Maintaining this ritual required a staggering investment of effort. Every piece of gear, from the needles for repair to the oils for the leather, had to be packed, transported, and protected. A lost swivel in a peaceful forest was an inconvenience. A lost swivel on a forced march could mean a lost bird and a failed message. The falconer became a logistician, his small kit as vital as a blacksmith's tools. This martial dimension adds a final, gritty layer to our understanding. It proves that the medieval world saw falconry equipment not as a fragile luxury, but as a robust, adaptable system. It was technology. The same straps and hoods that delivered a heron for a feast could, in different hands, deliver an order that might turn the tide of a skirmish. The bond between handler and bird, forged in patience, was now stressed by the drums of war. That bond, and the tools that sustained it, had to be strong enough to hold when the world itself was falling apart. War eventually gives way to other inventions, and one in particular would change the relationship between humans and the hunt forever. The crack of gunpowder echoed across the European landscape, a sound that signaled the slow, steady decline of falconry as a practical necessity. With the rise of reliable firearms in the 16th and 17th centuries, a hunter could bring down game from a distance with a single shot. It was efficient, it required less specialized training than a bird of prey, and it democratized hunting in a new way. Falconry did not vanish, but it retreated. It transformed from a vital method of provisioning and a common martial skill into something else entirely, a lavish and exclusive pastime. The equipment followed this social shift. In the courts of the Renaissance, where symbolism and display reached new heights, falconry gear became even more spectacularly ornate. We see this in the portraits of Elizabeth I or the Habsburg emperors. The gauntlet is now a work of art, crafted from the finest kid leather, embroidered with scenes from mythology, and lined with silk. Hoods are tooled and gilded. Leashes are woven from threads of gold. The bird itself, often a rare and exotic species, is a living jewel in a setting of breathtaking craftsmanship. This was falconry as pure theater, a performance of wealth and refinement meant for the palace gardens, not the wild moor. The practical purpose was almost secondary to the statement it made. Yet even as the sport became more ceremonial, its core tools remained, preserving a direct lineage through the centuries. The great simplification began with the modern revival of falconry as a dedicated pursuit, not of kings, but of passionate conservationists and enthusiasts. In the 20th century, falconers looked back to the medieval masters not for opulence, but for function. They stripped away the jewels and the gilt, asking the same essential question their ancestors did. What does the bird need to hunt successfully and live healthily in partnership with us? The answer was found in those ancient designs. The modern falconry glove is the direct descendant of the medieval gauntlet. It is still made of sturdy, supple leather, often buckskin, with a long cuff to protect the forearm. Its decoration is gone, replaced by a focus on perfect weight, balance, and grip. The modern hood is virtually identical to the classic Dutch or Anglo-Indian patterns perfected centuries ago. still using the same principles of blindfolding to calm the bird. And the jesses, swivel, and leash, they are a system unchanged in its fundamental logic. A falconer from the year 1400 could pick up a set of modern jesses and know exactly how to put them on. This continuity is the real historical mystery solved. It is proof that medieval falconers, through patient observation and ingenuity, arrived at a near-perfect technological solution for partnering with a raptor. They engineered a language of leather and metal that has never needed a full rewrite, only refinements in material and hygiene. When you see a falconer today, flying a bird to conserve a species or to experience that ancient bond, you are watching a medieval craft in motion. The glove on their hand, the hood in their pocket, the bells on the bird's legs, they are all echoes. They form a tangible thread connecting our world to the misty fields and castle yards of 1,000 years ago. The mystery is not locked in a display case. It is alive on the fist, a living tradition where every piece of equipment is a word still spoken in an unbroken conversation with the wild. The clang of a modern swivel sounds exactly like its ancient counterpart. To truly understand the genius in these designs, we must move beyond the page and feel the leather in hand. I spoke with a falconer who works with meticulously crafted replicas of medieval gear, putting history to the test on a modern hawk. Slipping his hand into a gauntlet made from traditional oak-tanned leather, his first comment was about the weight. It was substantial, a full pound of dense hide extending past his elbow, far heavier than his streamlined modern glove. You immediately feel the intent, he explained. This isn't just protection, it's an anchor. The bird feels that absolute stability, that unshakable platform, and it responds with confidence. The sheer heft of it forces you to be still, to become a statue. Your modern mind thinks it's cumbersome, but the bird's mind reads it as solid ground. Then came the hooding. The replica hood, based on a 15th century pattern, was stiffer than the soft leather caps used today. The falconer warmed it in his hands, making the leather pliable, just as a medieval handler would have. Approaching his hawk, he moved with a slow, deliberate grace. The bird, accustomed to the routine, dipped its head slightly. The fit was different, he noted. The eye apertures are smaller, shaping the world into a narrower tunnel of light. It creates a deeper, more profound calm. Watching the hawk settle, its feathers smoothing instantly, was a silent testament to a 1,000-year-old solution. The physics of darkness haven't changed. He picked up the lure next, a pair of duck wings bound to a cord. Swinging it in a wide, whistling arc, he explained the timeless principle. The motion is everything. It mimics an injured bird, something a hawk cannot resist. The weight, the spin, the sound of the wings cutting air. It's a trigger wired into their brain. A modern lure uses the same wings, the same motion. We haven't improved on the illusion, only the durability of the string. When he flung it out and his hawk shot from its perch, striking the lure in mid-air with a thump we could hear from 30 feet away, the connection was visceral. This was not a reenactment. It was the real thing. The medieval tool worked perfectly. The greatest validation, however, came from the smallest piece. Holding a replica iron swivel, he pointed to its simple, rust-speckled rings. This is where they were truly brilliant, he said. They identified a problem we still face today, entanglement, and solved it with flawless, minimalist engineering. My modern swivel is stainless steel. It's lighter and won't corrode, but the design is identical. 2 rings, one inside the other. It hasn't been improved upon because it can't be. It's already perfect. Using this gear, even for a short time, strips away the romance and reveals the practicality. You stop seeing antiques and start seeing expertly evolved tools. The medieval falconer wasn't a magician. He was a brilliant engineer of behavior. He built a world of leather and ritual that spoke directly to a predator's instincts, and we are still using his language. The proof isn't in a museum case. It's in the settled posture of a hooded bird, in the secure grip of a heavy glove, in the flawless spin of a ring that has turned for centuries. This knowledge didn't become history, it simply endured. That final, perfect spin of the iron swivel brings our journey full circle. We began with a falcon's cry in a misty field and have traveled through a world of leather, metal, and profound intention. We have decoded the silent language of the gauntlet, a glove that was both shield and sanctuary. We have uncovered the psychology of the hood, that gentle darkness that calmed a wild heart. We have followed the logic of the jesses and swivel, a system of leather bonds designed not to imprison, but to guarantee a safe return. And we have listened for the bright chime of the bells, a sound that turned a predator into a beacon. Each piece was a critical word in a dialogue between species. Together, they formed a complete sentence, an offer of partnership written in hide and thread. But as we have seen, this was a language spoken on many levels. In the calloused hands of a professional falconer, these objects were tools of pure function, worn smooth by daily use. In the jeweled grip of a king, they became symbols of immense power, their artistry broadcasting wealth across a crowded courtyard. The stark difference between a plain hawking glove and an embroidered gauntlet trimmed with fur tells two different stories of the same medieval world. One speaks of skill and necessity, the other of privilege and display. This equipment was more than utility. It was a canvas for human ambition and a testament to a deep observational understanding of the natural world. Medieval craftsmen did not force a bird to conform, they built a bridge to meet it. They studied its fears, its instincts, its physical needs, and they engineered solutions that have endured for centuries. The hood respects the falcon's overwhelming sight. The swivel anticipates its constant motion. The tiring cares for its growing beak. This was technology in harmony with biology. So what have we truly been exploring? Not a list of old hunting gear, but a key to a hidden layer of the past. Every time you now see a falcon on a knight's fist in a painting, you can read the story. The quality of the leather reveals the owner's status. The style of the hood hints at the bird's temperament. The presence of bells speaks of a very real fear of loss. These objects are a code waiting to be cracked. They allow us to see past the armor and the heraldry to the practical, delicate, and deeply human relationship at the heart of this majestic sport. The next time you stand before a medieval tapestry or examine a page from an illuminated manuscript, look for these details. You are no longer just an observer, you are a translator. And if you ever have the chance to visit a historical falconry display, to stand near a master and a bird, watch closely. See the weight of the glove, hear the soft jingle of the bells, witness the swift, sure motion of the hood. In that moment, you are not watching a demonstration. You are hearing a conversation that has continued for 1,000 years. Which piece of this intricate puzzle fascinated you the most? Was it the clever psychology of the hood, or the elegant engineering of the swivel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If unraveling historical mysteries like this one brings you joy, be sure to subscribe. There are always more layers to peel back, more forgotten languages waiting to be learned. Until then, keep looking closer. The past is speaking if you know how.